But I was opposed to the war from the beginning, long after my interview with Howard Stern. But 3 months before the Iraq war started, I said in an interview with Neil Cavuto that perhaps we shouldn't be doing it yet.
Well, that was President Trump denying that he ever supported the war in Iraq. And in fact, the only conflicts the US are currently involved in are the ones started by his predecessors. But how has his administration handled them? Well, to try and answer that, we can speak to the former US Ambassador Peter Galbraith. He was also once an advisor to Northern Iraq's Kurdish regional government. Ambassador Galbraith, thank you very much for joining us. Now, Ambassador Haley at the United Nations says that Trump's strategy in Afghanistan is working and they're closer than ever to having peace talks between the Taliban and the government. Do you agree?
I don't think it's working. You know, it is a repetition of the same strategy that the United States has been pursuing for 17 years, and it hasn't worked. And the reason it hasn't worked is very simple, which is that the United States doesn't have a partner in Afghanistan, and you can't conduct a counterinsurgency campaign without a partner.
I mean, just quickly to bring you in, Tina, he's right, they don't have a partner in Afghanistan because not only are they not in a great situation with the Afghan government, but they're also upsetting the Pakistanis and withdrawing aid.
Yeah, I don't know whether we can say that they don't have a proper partner at this point in time because none of us are actually part of those conversations that are taking place. Information that I've received actually from the head of the Heritage Foundation is that what is going on in Afghanistan right now is starting to work. And I think that what you started to say when you originally started the conversation is that there are conversations that are going to be taking place and that, well, we're not perfectly involved in it. And our ambassador our French ambassador that's speaking right now is not personally involved in it now. There are things that are moving forward.
Ahmed, do you agree?
Look, these wars are not only inherited from Obama, they're inherited from George Bush. They started these wars. They were failed policies from the beginning in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And it was the biggest destabilizing movements in the area. They actually handed Iraq over to Iran. We were talking earlier about what was happening in Iran. So to blame the Obama administration or what has happened, he's continuing the same policies. Now they want to go to war or beat the drums to war with Iran to further destabilize the region. These are failed policies. One of the reasons why they don't have real partners in the area is because his rhetoric is constantly to attack Islam, to criticize Muslims. How do you expect these Muslim majority countries to get on board with your agenda when you're clearly, your party and your own rhetoric is so anti-Muslim and against those communities?
I mean, Ambassador Galbraith, I'm sure you probably do agree with that. And also, further on, Trump himself, he surrounded himself with generals. Within sort of a month or two of him taking office, he dropped the biggest conventional munition on Afghanistan. He really set himself up as trying to make a change in that country, but you don't think it's working?
Again, it's doing what we've done before. You know, one can always hope for secret talks, but it's a lot of wishful thinking. I mean, the reason that it doesn't work is that you need to have a partner that is effective, has legitimacy, and in fact, the partners in Afghanistan are corrupt, widely seen as illegitimate. Beg your pardon?
Who is that partner, Ambassador Galbraith? Who would you like to see the Americans working with to try and solve the war?
Well, the Afghan government, but you know, it sits atop a whole system that is very corrupt. Actually, both Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah are good people. I know them, and so obviously much better than their rather bizarre predecessor, Hamid Karzai. But nonetheless, they sit on top of a system of institutionalized corruption, where local authorities are actually making their own deals with the Taliban. We think of this as two sides. But the local authorities in Helmand are actually often in league with the Taliban, and so our conception of the place doesn't reflect the reality. And you see the same thing in Iraq. Oddly, not only have we turned the country over to Iran, but Trump actually allowed Abu Mahdi Mohandes, a man who was convicted in Kuwait for blowing up the U.S. Embassy in 2003, to use Abrams tanks to attack the Kurds in Kirkuk. We sided with an Iranian-sponsored militia headed by someone that we considered to be a terrorist. At the same time, we abandoned our allies. We wouldn't supply those weapons. So it's both confused, and very inconsistent.
Okay, Ambassador Galbraith laying out a muddled policy there. Thank you so much for joining us.